When you think Greek gods, what comes to mind? Probably togas and lightning bolts, right? Well, let me tell you, the real story is way darker. It's not just mythology, it's a cosmic-scale family drama, packed with ambition, paranoia, and just so much betrayal.
And of course, there's one name everyone knows: Zeus, king of the gods, ruler of the sky. He's the A-lister, the headliner of the whole Greek pantheon.
But here's the thing. His story, it doesn't actually start with him. Not even close. We've got to go back 2 whole generations, to the grandfather he betrayed. And yeah, that betrayal is what kicks off this whole epic mess.
And then there's his father. Oh, you have got to hear about his father. A king so terrified of his own kids that he did something, well, unthinkable, all to hang on to his crown. This whole saga is really a story about sons overthrowing their fathers. It's this repeating cycle, and it tells you a lot about how the ancient Greeks saw power, that it's never really safe, and your biggest threat? It's probably your own family.
So, to get a handle on all this drama, we're going to break it down into 3 big generations of power. First, you've got the Primordials, the OGs, who literally came from nothing. Then, the Titans, the rebels who took over. And finally, the Olympians. Yep, the ones you've probably heard of, ruling from Mount Olympus.
All right, so where does all this even start? Well, before there was an earth, before there was a sky, before a single god you could name, there was just one thing.
And that thing was chaos. Now, I don't mean chaos like a messy room. Think of it more like a massive, empty void. It was basically the womb of the universe. And out of this, nothing. The very first being started to pop into existence, literally weaving the fabric of reality.
So from this chaos, you get the first power couple: Gaia, who is the Earth, and Uranus, who is the sky. And hey, take a look at the colors we're using here. Green for Earth, blue for sky. We're going to use that as a little cheat sheet to see how their turf gets passed down later on.
Now you'd think their first kids would be these majestic, godlike beings. Nope, not at all. First up were the Cyclops, yep, the giants with one big eye. And then came the Hecatoncheirus. I mean, just try to picture this. Creatures with 50 heads and 100 arms. And this, right here, is where the family drama really kicks into high gear. As you can imagine, this sight of these children absolutely horrified their dad, Uranus. And his reaction? It leads straight to the first epic power struggle and an act of cruelty that is just, wow, unimaginable.
So Uranus was so completely grossed out by his 100-armed kids that he just shoved them right back where they came from. He imprisoned them deep inside their own mother, Gaia, the Earth itself. I mean, can you imagine? This caused Gaia this constant agonizing pain. And pretty understandably, she was filled with rage. Her husband just turned her body into a jail for her own children.
And that rage, it lit the fuse for a revolution. Gaia creates this insane, unbreakable sickle and begs her other kids, the Titans, to help her out. But only one was brave enough, or maybe just ambitious enough, to step up. Cronus, the youngest. He grabs the sickle, ambushes his own father, and takes him down in the most brutal way you can think of. And just like that, the first rule of the cosmos is written in blood. You don't get handed power, you take it. Cronus is the new king.
Okay, so we're now in the age of the Titans. Cronus is on the throne, ruling with his sister wife, Rhea. But here's the problem when you seize power by force. You're doomed to live in fear of it, right? Cronus was totally haunted by what he did.
And then he hears about a prophecy that said history was going to repeat itself. That just like he overthrew his father, one of his own sons was going to rise up and do the exact same thing to him. This idea is huge in Greek myths. You just can't escape your fate. And this prophecy, it drove him completely paranoid.
So, to stop this prophecy from coming true, Cronus comes up with a horrifying plan. Every single time his wife Rhea had a baby, he would grab the newborn and just swallow it whole. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, one by one, 5 of his own children, gone, just like that.
Rhea, having watched 5 of her kids get eaten, is absolutely desperate. So when her 6th child is on the way, she cooks up a plan. She hides the actual baby, takes a big rock, wraps it up in a blanket, and hands it over to Cronus. And him? He's so blinded by his fear, he doesn't even notice. Gulp, swallows the rock without a second thought. But see, he didn't cheat fate, he sealed it. Because that hidden baby, that was Zeus.
So Zeus gets raised in secret, growing up strong, just waiting for his chance. And when he's finally grown, he comes back to challenge his dad. And by doing that, he kicks off a war that would literally shake the universe to its core. This was it, the Titans versus the new kids on the block.
And this wasn't some quick little battle. Oh no. First, Zeus pulls a fast one on Cronus and tricks him into puking up his brothers and sisters, who, by the way, pop out fully grown. Then the Titanomachy begins, a brutal 10-year-long war. The tide only turns because of a perfect ironic twist. Zeus goes and frees the monstrous Hecatoncheires, the very same uncles his granddad Uranus had locked up, and their 100-armed power? That was the secret weapon the Olympians needed to seal the deal.
So, what happens to the losers? Well, the son becomes the father, doesn't he? The cycle continues. The Olympians take Cronus and his buddies and chuck them into Tartarus, the deepest, darkest pit in the underworld. The prophecy came true. Power had changed hands once again, thanks to, you guessed it, violence and betrayal.
With the Titans finally out of the picture, the third and final generation of gods takes over as the rulers of the universe. And this is the crew that most of us know today, the gods of Mount Olympus.
So the new management, let's call it, was made up of two generations. You had the original siblings, Zeus, his brothers and sisters, the ones who actually fought the war. Then, to round out the Big 12 on the ruling council, they brought in a bunch of Zeus's own kids, like Athena, Apollo, and Ares. And you gotta understand, this wasn't just a family, it was a political move. A way for Zeus to lock down his power and make sure none of his kids got any bright ideas about overthrowing him.
And you can see exactly how this generational power shift worked by just looking at one domain, like the sea. Back in the raw, early days of the Primordials, the sea was run by a guy named Pontus. Then, when the Titans took over, it went to Oceanus. And finally, in the New World Order, Zeus's brother Poseidon gets the gig. This exact same handover happened for all the big jobs, setting up a clear cosmic org chart with Zeus right at the top.
So why should we care about all this ancient family drama today? Well, because whether you realize it or not, these stories, these names, these big ideas about power and destiny, they're literally everywhere.
I mean, think about it. Every time you see a pair of Nike sneakers, that's the Greek goddess of victory. The hero from the God of War video games, Kratos, named for the personification of strength. The whole Percy Jackson series is basically a modern-day tour of this world. Even everyday words like solar and lunar, those come from the Titan gods of the sun and moon. And hey, just look up at the planets at night. Jupiter is Zeus, Mars is Ares. It's the same crew, just with the Roman names.
So, Zeus and the Olympians, they finally did it. They broke the cycle of son overthrowing father. They set up a new world order that would last for ages. But did the drama stop? Not a chance. The ambition, the jealousy, the betrayals, all that stuff just changed shape. It turned into the endless squabbles, affairs, and rivalries that make up all the famous Olympian myths. Which kind of leaves you with one last question, right? They won the war for the entire cosmos. But was their family ever really at peace?